Good morning, everybody. Welcome into Coffee Break presented by Bath Fitter. DMAC Rachel Veal hanging out with you for the next 45 minutes. We have such a busy show because the rumor mill is spreading, and there's just so much information we have to get into, DMAC. But first of all, how are you on this Tuesday?
I'm super awesome. Pretty chilly start to the morning.
I know.
Good to have my little cup of coffee here.
I'm so over it. I'm ready for like 75 degrees, 80 degrees every day. Like I'm over winter. I'm done with it.
Are you going on a spring break?
I'm not. Florida was my spring break. We all remember that a few weeks back. That was my spring break. And then I've got two really big trips this summer. I'm going to Hawaii and I am doing an Alaska cruise. So I've got two really massive trips. I know.
Real quick, Hawaii, what island?
Kona.
Kona. Very
Kona.
nice.
Yeah. So I am on my agenda to do is shark diving.
Okay.
I go swim with the manta rays. And then we're big Kona beer people, so do like their little brewery tour out there.
Kona's the big island, correct?
Yep.
I was at the big island on my honeymoon.
Okay.
Is it the big island?
Now that you say that, or is Kauai the big island?
Kauai is a small island.
Okay, so then Kona must be the big island.
Yeah, I think that's where the Ironman triathlon is, I believe, on the Big Island.
It's the Big Island. Yeah,
it's the Big Island. Yeah.
Yep.
Beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Have you ever been there?
I've never been to Hawaii. This will be my first time.
Oh. Well, you're going to the Big Island is big. It's very unpopulated too. I was there for 3 days on my honeymoon. It's definitely laid back. Nice. Super laid back compared to Maui or Honolulu, that type of thing. It sounds awesome. I'm jealous. Way to go. Have a great time.
Are you going anywhere for spring break?
I am going to go to see my son play baseball in Northern California.
Nice.
So we're going to go back to Northern California for a week and watch some baseball, and we'll enjoy that together. So it'll be cool.
Nice. Okay, well, everybody in the comments, let us know if you're doing anything for spring break, because if you're going to warm weather, I'm definitely going to be jealous. Yeah, everybody in the comments, I see you. Good morning. But DMAC, we got to get into it. Trade deadline. Franchise tag deadline is today at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Are the Broncos going to tag Draymond Jones? Because I don't think so.
I mean, everybody I've talked to says no. And they're going to let him test the market. I think they'd like him back at a certain price. And he wants to go see what his value is. So, okay, fine. Tagging somebody really isn't worth it unless you have a firm idea that you can work out a deal later. It's just really a waste of money. So they must be pretty far apart. Okay, here we go. I don't think it's make or break. I think I don't want to see him go, but I don't think he's worthy of $20 million in terms of a tag or 20 per. I just don't. If he can get that from somebody else, hey, man, good for Draymond Jones. That's awesome. He's a good dude. So I wish him nothing but the best. But do not expect – I would be surprised, very surprised, if the Broncos tag Draymond today.
And really, he was the only name that anyone was talking about in terms of franchise tagging. So essentially, we're both going to say no news is going to come out of Broncos headquarters today involving the franchise tag.
Well, not on that one. But, boy, they're trying to ship Courtland Sutton. They're trying to there's a lot of interesting things sort of going on. And with the league year just opening up next week and you get into your official tampering period and then the league opens, next week is really, next week is awesome. Next week is the NFL buzzsaw. And it's likely as exciting of a time for the Broncos as any, considering they don't have a first or second round pick this year.
I know. And next week we're going to keep everybody updated at denversports.com because there is going to be a ton of news. Like you mentioned, there's already some rumors that are spilling. But before we get into that, I do want to just talk about other things that are happening around the NFL involving the franchise tag. Like there's question marks on Lamar Jackson still happening. Yeah. What's going to happen with the Ravens? Aaron Rodgers, that's not really a franchise tag thing, but just where is he going to go? That's starting to pop up again. Josh Jacobs, he is staying with the Raiders. That's already been confirmed. They've already tagged him. But then the other one is Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley, and we've talked a little bit about that here, DMAC. But let's start with Lamar. Is Lamar going to be a Raven next year?
I think so. I didn't think so for a while, but Ozzie Newsome, who was their longtime GM and is now kind of this professor emeritus sort of higher player personnel standing, like I think Ozzie only gets involved in the big stuff, and Lamar certainly is the big stuff.
Okay.
And reading Ozzie Newsome yesterday, I think they're going to get something done. I just think it's just too much to lose him, and I think they will figure it out. I didn't think that until I read what Ozzie Newsome said yesterday. What do you think? You think he's staying or going?
Gosh, the fact that they just haven't been able to agree at all, and since he's fighting for his own contract and he doesn't have an agent, he has to feel slightly disrespected at the fact that like nothing's getting done. I don't know. I just find it so strange that like here we are, like this was happening again last year, and now we're just kind of in the exact same spot. So I don't know. I think it's going to kind of really depend on. I think the Ravens do want him back, but does Lamar want to stay? And that's the question I have.
I get the impression he likes everybody there. It's just that he has a sense of what he's worth. He's well within his rights to feel like that based on who did get paid. The deal that Deshaun Watson got from the Browns is just such a absurd game changer because rightfully so. If you're Lamar Jackson, you look at Deshaun Watson, you'd be like, all right, he's a good player and all, but give me a break. And I think that's exactly what's going on. So I think it gets worked out, though, Rach. I do think that gets worked out, but that's hardly the end of the drama. I mean, it's all sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah. Okay. We'll go to the Giants real quick. Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley? If you're the GM, who are you taking?
I'm taking Daniel Jones.
Yep.
I mean, is he your guy or is he not your guy? And sometimes guys just outprice the value of their position.
Yeah.
You know, Justin Simmons is kind of like that. Saquon Barkley is like that. So if I'm the Giants, seriously, as much as I probably love Saquon, that is the problem you get into when you value a running back that high. Look what's going on with the Titans right now. They're about to get rid of Derrick Henry. I mean,
insane.
Right? And you just cannot afford to spend that much money on a position. Again, I know I bore you to tears with this concept of relative value, but you just can't do it. You've got to keep things in line. You know, there's got to be ceilings for how much the position is worth, Rachel. And Saquon Barkley is way beyond, not a little beyond it, way beyond it. Daniel Jones, I know it sounds outrageous to say $35 million for Daniel Jones. I know that sounds crazy. But when you look at the escalating salary cap and what quarterbacks are about to make, he's kind of right in line with quarterbacks that are, you know, top 10 quarterbacks. And either your guy is a top 10 quarterback or you think he can be a top 10 quarterback. If he doesn't check either of those boxes, Rachel, you got to move on to the next guy. It's as harsh as that. That's why these guys, Rach, are so hard to find. It is so difficult to get these top 10 guys. So if you believe in them, you got to pay them. And Geno Smith is getting 30 per. Geno Smith.
I know.
Geno Smith. I mean, I'm just like, Geno Smith.
Have we heard? I heard Locke may be moved. Like, there's no guarantee he's going to stay. But then I also saw a few tweets of, like, the Seahawks aren't done with Locke. So what's going on?
I mean, why? You've already paid for him. You got him for a year. He doesn't really cost you all that much money. From what I understand, he gets along great with everybody. I don't know why they would move Drew Lock. For what point? He clearly knows he's the backup. Drew's not a disruptive guy, too. He's a good dude. So I have no idea why the Seahawks would move Drew Lock. None. Zero.
What do you think Russell Wilson thought when he saw that they were signing Geno Smith to that contract extension?
That's a great question.
You think that stung a little?
I got to be honest with you. I really don't know what Russell Wilson thinks about anything. I don't know him. I don't know how he thinks. I have no insight to him as a person. I can't get through the facade that he puts up. So for me to conjecture anything about Russell, I don't know what he thinks about the price of tea in China. I don't know what he thinks about. I don't know what he thinks about anything. I have no pulse whatsoever on who he is as a human being, his feelings or emotions. None. So I don't know.
For some of his former teammates, he tweets about it. I'm going to check right now because I don't think he's tweeted about any of that kind of stuff.
But I mean, it would be surprising to me if he was jealous. Or I mean, Russell Wilson got everything he wanted. He wanted out. He got out. Well, he wanted Pete Carroll and John Schneider fired, so I guess he didn't get that. But he wanted out. He wanted Sean Payton as a coach. He wanted a new contract. He wants to be the starting quarterback of the Broncos or somewhere that they'll play him. He's got everything, Rach. He's
I
got
know.
absolutely everything, okay? So why somebody who has everything would be jealous about anything is beyond my comprehension. So I'm sure he's fine, happy. What does he care? I mean, I'm sure he's all right.
I just think that there's a little hard feelings back there towards Seattle, but there is a comment that said, should Denver kick the tires on Derrick Henry or Frank Clark? And yeah, the Chiefs aren't planning to bring back Frank Clark. They must not have agreed on a contract extension there. Should the Broncos go after Frank Clark?
That's a great question. Super question. It goes to, do you think Randy Gregory, I'll throw it back at you. Do you think Randy Gregory can stay healthy?
Ooh. I mean, look at last year. How many games did he end up playing?
7 out of 7, something like that. I mean, less than half the season.
I don't think so.
Well, that is a big swing and a miss by our favorite guy, George Payton. Then, listen. Here's what here's what I know. There's a great piece in the Denver Post about the salary cap space of the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
And I would assume they'll move on from Graham Glasgow, which saves them like $10-11 million. The Broncos can do whatever deals they really want, Rich. They have enough space as it exists. Yep. And they can make room through an assortment of different ways by releasing certain players or restructuring contracts with certain players, okay? So if you want Frank Clark, you can go get him. I mean, if you want Cam Jordan with the Saints, if they let him go, which it seems to be they will, you can go get him. The Broncos are actually in a great spot until 2025. In 2025, they get hammered by Russell Wilson's contract. But not until 2025. This is the problem the Cowboys have with Dak Prescott right now. I mean, against the salary cap, Prescott is costing them tens and tens of millions of dollars. I mean, Jerry Jones just said it. We just can't give Dak Prescott the players he once had because of his deal. Well, I mean, that might sound like a jerky thing for Jones to say, but it's accurate. And Russell Wilson's deal is just, Rachel, I'm telling you, it's not that bad in terms of the hit it takes on the salary cap until 2025. So you say, should they get Frank Clark? I mean, I'm like, okay. I mean, it's up to you, Sean Payton and George Payton, if you think so. But if you do get Frank Clark, you're just telling us, you were either really wrong about Randy Gregory or you really just don't believe in Baron Browning. Now, you've got Browning on a very cheap contract. So if you just don't really believe in Baron Browning, that might be the right way to go.
How can you not after what we saw last year? Like, I thought he was fantastic last year. There were so many games where we walked around and he was a bright spot and even a loss.
Well, I like Baron Browning too. And don't forget you got Nick Benito and Jonathan Cooper. We're talking, but you can't, you got to be as good as you can be at outside pass rush. Pass rush, totally, but outside pass rush in particular. So that's it. Here we go. What do we really think of our guys? While we all grow attached to our dudes, there's other dudes. And Frank Clark, without a doubt, is a dude. So I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be banging the table for it either because I know who we got. And you have other options too. It's interesting, though, for sure. And it deserves a deep conversation. And you really just got to ask yourself, and as much as... To me, it's really more about Randy Gregory than Baron Browning, okay? On the surface, it should be about Baron Browning. But to me, it's what is your confidence level with Gregory? And mine is low as well. So you know what? I do think they have to add an excellent pass rusher because I just don't believe Randy Gregory is going to be healthy. More so than you're better than Baron Browning.
Yeah, and Patrick puts in the comments, should we be more worried about signing our own players or go after free agents? Depends on how good you think the team is.
Who do we care about from our team? I mean, you don't care that much about Draymond, I guess. You certainly don't care about Dalton Reisner. I've heard that they care more about Jonas Griffith than Alex Singleton. I heard last night it looks like Kareem Jackson could be coming back. Darby, you may move on from. Glasgow, you may move on from. You can restructure Garrett Bowles if you want to save a penny or two. I don't know. I don't think we have that many guys that, I mean, Latavius Murray, I mean, you can get him no matter what. Chase Edmonds are probably going to dump. Rachel, we're probably going to lose more guys than we're going to keep. So, no. To answer the question, We care way more about adding guys to the team than keeping our own guys. Way more.
No, I'm with you 100%. Well, that brings us to the conversation of shopping Courtland Sutton. They're quietly doing this, which I find to be very interesting, but still, nonetheless, they are shopping. And what can you even get for Courtland Sutton? A fourth, a fifth?
Maybe a fifth. I hate to say it because I love Courtland. He's a great dude. But fourth round guys are like NFL starters. If you could get a fourth rounder for Courtland Sutton, great. But I think you're going to have to be satisfied with a fifth rounder or deeper. And you got to do it. You absolutely got to do it. We've talked about this many times here. He's the fourth best receiver on the team. And it's just, he makes too much money to be your fourth best receiver.
But the question is Tim Patrick going to be able to come back and be the Tim Patrick he once was?
Well, the recovery from ACLs has been pretty strong. I think he can come back. You?
I hope so. Because he was going to be my number one wide receiver last year. I thought he was top of the top. I'm putting Judy there now, and then I think it's going to be Timmy P. But, I agree with you that I do think, well, you put KJ over Courtland?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But they really play a different position. Courtland has no separation. He has limited speed. He's got great hands, and he's a tough guy. But he's going to get tackled a millisecond after he catches every ball. Yeah. KJ Hamler has, and so does Jerry Jeudy, have the ability to catch the ball and take off, create separation. They both have afterburners, Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. You think you're even, and when you need that extra, they got it. Sutton doesn't. Patrick doesn't really, but Patrick is just a much better catcher of the football. And he's really, him and Courtland Sutton are just like twins. So you really just got to make a choice. And I just think Tim Patrick's a slightly better receiver. So to me, that puts Sutton on the outside looking in. It does. So yeah, you got to move on. And by the way, you do have to pick up another receiver then. You can't just stay pat. But, you get good production out of like Kendall Hinton and sort of guys like that. That's sort of your fourth, fifth guys. You don't need a superstar. You probably need some sort of other vet on a low contract that, this would be great theoretically if like an Emmanuel Sanders type of guy was out there. A veteran that you're only going to have a year or so, somebody like that. That would be ideally your fourth guy, not a guy you're paying, $15 million a year. Yeah, that's not the right thing.
No, I'm with you. Nick says send Sutton to the Ravens, hoping for a fourth, but take a fifth.
Yeah, either way, you're going to move on. Listen, we should not be surprised by this news. And no. It
was talked about last year.
Yeah.
But how many years does Courtland have left on his extension?
That's a good question.
So did George Payton again jump the gun on Courtland Sutton?
Yeah, it was stupid. You shouldn't have signed Courtland and Tim Patrick, and they did so within like a 24-hour period. It's Russell Wilson, Rachel, but it's okay. If you want to move on from George Payton, I'm fine with that too. But then again, you were doing some other weird deals at the time. It was weird to draft Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler in back-to-back drafts. You know what's going to be really interesting is you are going to have to make a financial decision on Patrick Surtain and Jerry Jeudy, more or less at the same time, very close to it. So we'll see how that goes. And there's rumors out there today that Jalen Ramsey, who's an unbelievable cornerback, could be moving on. And that guy has been one of the top cornerbacks forever. These cornerbacks, Rachel, they get moved all the time. So really getting worked up about drafting one is just kind of weird because you can just find them and you can never have too many good ones. But teams are playing more and more zone defenses because it's so hard to get to the quarterback and stop these amazing talented receivers. Yeah. So having the best safety in Simmons and having the best corner in Surtain, while that's cool. Again, you go to the relative value of the position and the fact that you're just going to outpace the entire market with salaries for those guys. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And you're not there with Surtain yet. You're not. So we'll see where they get. But you are there with Simmons, and it's why you got to save money in other places.
True. And Courtland is signed through 2025. So.
Okay, well, he's got to go then. He's got to go.
I'm just saying, problem number one just keeps to be adding and adding and adding, in my personal opinion. But Matthew Berry was at the Combine, and he put together a huge list of things that he heard, and it's very, very interesting to me because there's one with Payton involving Russ. And let's actually get to this one. Quote, I don't think Sean Payton likes Russ. He's got 1 year to prove himself, or Payton will move on. And we've talked about it, D-Mac. You've mentioned it plenty of times about how you didn't think he was actually kidding when he was talking about Wilson reaching out to Breeze and that communication there. Like, you think it's actually really annoying.
Well, I think Sean Payton thinks it's annoying.
Yeah.
I think Sean Payton was like, he's wearing out Drew Brees. He came over and at our dinner. That wasn't a private dinner. It was like a charity event. And Russ came down and sat at the table. And Sean Payton said he wanted to talk to Joe Montana, not talk about, 3rd and 6.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get it. And Russell Wilson made it news that he called Sean Payton, or rather Colin Cowherd. I forget how it came out. But Russell Wilson called Sean Payton during the coaching search. It's like, all of it is just like, okay, all right, you got it. Russ, you passed the audition. You're the guy. You can just chill out a little bit.
Yeah.
We're fixing to find out, as Gary Kubiak once said, about how Sean Payton feels about everything. We'll know a lot, Rachel, about how he really feels when it comes to who they decide on for the backup quarterback position. There's a lot of people out there hemming and hawing, it's not the most important thing. Okay, maybe it's not the most important thing, but it's a thing, and it'll tell you a lot about how Sean Payton feels about Russell Wilson. And that becomes all-time great sports talk conversations about the good old backup quarterback position. And that will be a large topic of conversation now, because it seems unreal that they would keep Brett Rippon and, Jared Guarantano. Does he remain a Bronco? Trust me, the fact that I even can say Jared Guarantano and know that he's a Bronco is shocking. So, yeah, we're about to get kind of interesting here. Do you have a favorite for backup quarterback, Rach? Who do you want to see?
I literally was just going to ask you that question. Jameis Winston's not bad. I prefer him over Marcus Mariota. Gosh, I don't know. I mean, there's some, all right names, but nobody that really stands out. But what's kind of sad about the whole thing is, I don't know if Russ is any better than any of them. And he's obviously your starter because of what they're paying. Let's just do Winston, for example. I think he can be a more dynamic player than Russell Wilson can. So then at that point, it's you've got your starter who you're paying a boatload of money to, but you've also got a quarterback who can be a little more dynamic and probably move a little bit better than Russell Wilson can. So does that help Russ? We've talked about the competition aspect. I don't know. And is there a point during the season that you honestly think Russ could get benched, or because of his salary, is there absolutely no way and Russ is just going to be the starter regardless?
Well, I think Winston says we got a little heat. Heat. It's a guy that Sean Payton's very familiar with. He was successful with, and he's a high-quality quarterback and has had success in the league. Mariota is more like a Taysom Hill. He's like at this point in his career, Mariota is nothing more than sort of a gadget guy. So I like Mariota for that reason. He's as close to Taysom Hill as you can get. Now, if you just say, oh, well, Mariota stinks and we don't want that, I'm like, okay, but I'm not thinking of Mariota like a traditional backup quarterback. I'm thinking about him like Taysom Hill. If you've got a better suggestion than Taysom Hill, I'm all ears. But we know Sean Payton liked it. We know it because he took Hill, they paid Hill, and they used Hill. So I'm just using some logic here that something that worked out really well for Sean Payton might be something he may want to do again. So to me, if it's not Mariota, okay, well, who is like that? And I don't know anybody better at that than possibly Mariota, but that doesn't mean that's the end of the road. There may be other guys like that out there. Who knows? Winston, to me, is like, we're serious about putting heat under Russell. If you bring in Gardner Minshew, who cares? If you bring in Baker Mayfield, look out. Baker Mayfield puts heat under Russell Wilson. If you put Mike White there, nothing. If you put Andy Dalton there, nothing. So I think there's a lot of choices, but each choice says something about how you feel about the situation. So for me personally, I want to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. So bring in Andy Dalton as far as I'm concerned. It's sink or swim with Russ. If you want to win this year, well, that's a different conversation. So do you want to win and tank for Caleb Williams or Drake May? Or do you want to, as Sean Payton put out there, because he favors a draft lottery and has said Caleb Williams is a generational guy. So we know how Sean Payton feels about next year's quarterback class, Rachel. We already know that. So
Yes.
What do you really want to get out of this season? I'm asking you and everybody out there. For me, I've been clear. I wanted to tank it out for Caleb Williams and build things back the right way, okay? That's what I want to do. I am not going to get my way. They're actually going to try this year. So if you want to win, I would bring in Mariota and Jameis Winston. Both of them.
I'm going to do a poll on our YouTube. If you're watching on our YouTube, please join in. How do you want to phrase it? What do you want out of this Broncos season? To win or to tank for Caleb Williams?
No, I would say tank. I would say to win by all means necessary, or sink or swim with Russell Wilson. Because that's really the choice. Because if you want to sink or swim with Russell Wilson, Rachel, you could probably just keep Brett Rippon and Jared Guarantano. Why spend any extra money if you want to sink or swim? If you want to win, you'll get the best possible competition. That's what you'll do. And if you really want to win, you won't be shy about pulling Russ if he's not playing well. Okay. If you want to win.
So far, we're at 50-50. 50% on both. So we'll keep it updated. I'll update you, DMAC. Thanks to everybody for putting out your opinion. It keeps going back and forth, back and forth. It's interesting, and it's a conversation, but I'm always on the side of you never know what can happen with a draft pick. And see, I'm going to contradict myself, but Russell Wilson can win the game. Does he just need a better quarterback?
I don't know that. Rachel, I wish I knew that. I don't know that right now.
But he has won. That's the thing. He has won. That's how I'm contradicting myself a little bit, because obviously new team, new scheme, new head coach again, and yada, yada. He's obviously older too, but you also don't know with a younger quarterback what can happen. How many times have we seen quarterbacks come out of a draft, DMAC, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's going to be the best new thing in the world. Do you think that the Jags will ever win with Trevor Lawrence a Super Bowl?
Oh, they have a shot for sure. And they got to the playoffs this year. And Trevor Lawrence is absolutely a projectable top 10 quarterback, 1,000%. And that's all you can do. Listen, Rachel, only 4% of any quarterback drafted in any round has actually won a Super Bowl. Yeah. So winning a Super Bowl defines your legacy, not if you were the right choice for an organization. Mm-hmm. What you need as a quarterback, essentially, is somebody that can convert in the red zone, convert on third down, and can get you to the playoffs with a competitive advantage to try to win. In terms of winning, you always have to play somebody good at the end of the day. Jim Kelly isn't less than. Dan Marino isn't less than, because they didn't win Super Bowls. They were top quarterbacks of all time, Hall of Famers. Mm-hmm. So I don't measure success whether or not you win a Super Bowl. I measure legacy, and the legacy of Phillip Rivers, Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, these guys is definitely less than Joe Montana, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. There's no doubt about it, John Elway. There is a legacy-defining element. But you don't get that luxury when they're 22 years old and coming out of the draft. You just have somebody who's going to give you a competitive advantage, and it's going to be, hopefully, a top 10 quarterback. You really can't ask for more than that, and then the chips will fall where they may. So for Trevor Lawrence, yeah, hell yeah. He's freaking awesome. If I'm a Jaguars fan, I am happy to roll the dice with Trevor Lawrence for the next 15 years. Ain't no doubt about it.
But do you ever think that he will win a Super Bowl? Just a yes or no answer.
Yes.
Okay. So you think that he can beat out a Patrick Mahomes, he can beat out a Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, maybe?
Yes. And all those guys can beat out each other as well. So could Justin Herbert. Throw him in that mix. They're all brilliantly talented, tall NFL quarterbacks who are mobile. The AFC, Rachel, it's sick what they're loaded with. Absolutely sick. That's why when I look at like Bryce Young, that guy is small, man. That is a tiny dude in the NFL. And it just looks weird. And I really just don't know how successful it'll ever be. Whereas when you look at Anthony Richardson and, like Will Levis and these bigger dudes, it's like, geez, if I just got to roll the dice with somebody, even CJ Stroud's a bigger guy. To me, it's scary. What I think size actually does matter. It's not like you can't be successful. And Russell Wilson has gone to 2 Super Bowls, should have won 2, won 1, and he's pretty short. So, okay, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I always am about the best chance to win, the best chance of having success. So when you say, oh my gosh, I don't know if quarterbacks work out, you're not alone. You're not wrong. The hit rate, the success rate, just to have a good quarterback out of first-round guys taken before, say, pick 15, Rachel, it's around 36%. And those are the best odds that you get. You should see what the hit rate is in the 20s for first-rounders. Terrible. In the second, third, and fourth round, it just keeps going down and down and down in terms of successful hit rates. And you can use whatever metrics you want except for winning the Super Bowl, because that metric is slanted because Tom Brady, who was a 6th-round choice, won 7 of them. There's only been 50-something Super Bowls, and this character's won 7 and was drafted in the 6th round. So he screws up that entire metric because nobody, Rachel, I mean nobody, is planning on getting their franchise quarterback in the 6th round. Nobody. Yeah. Should you take a shot at that? Because you never know? Sure. You can do that year after year after year. This is why people buy lottery tickets. You can do it. Somebody wins the lottery. So, I mean, there's a reason behind it. But that doesn't give you the best chance to win. And the Broncos have had 2 chances, 2, in the past few years to give themselves the best chance for successful runs with a young quarterback. And they whiffed both times. Both times. So we are stuck, Rachel. We are stuck in purgatory. Purgatory, going with a quarterback who's getting in better shape. Thank God for the pictures. And he's in his mid-30s. But now you got to look at how many quarterbacks who've had at least a dip in their mid-30s and then rose up. There's a couple, but not many. And not many who are 5'10".
I want to know from people in the comments who you would like to see be the backup quarterback of the Denver Broncos. And 62% of people, 64 now, say sink or swim with Russ. So
that's cool. That's where I am. And let me make it clear. Good. I don't want some sort of, because if it doesn't work, I want to be trying to get Drake May or Caleb Williams. And by the way, there may be a couple of other guys, Rachel, that we're not even that aware of right now. For example, there are 4 quarterbacks, 4, who are going to be top 10 draft picks this year. 4, okay? We'll see other guys pop up. We know about Caleb Williams and Drake May, but there definitely could be other guys. So if we don't have the first pick, okay. But seriously, Rachel, if we have a first-round draft pick for the first time in 3 years and it's a top 10 pick, then you just don't take a chance at quarterback. I mean, we're talking about having a top 10 pick. That means the season sucked, and we're moving on. I don't want to hear about how, Jameis Winston is now going to be our answer because we picked him up. I don't want to hear it. If that's the plan, that's a bad plan. So I am voting firmly on our poll, sink or swim.
Okay.
You know what? Good, because this takes me off the hot seat, for like backup quarterback. You're right. I am sink or swim. See, I'm developing this right now. Good poll. I'm sink or swim with Russell Wilson. I don't want an escape hatch. So good. You're right. Actually, no Mariota, no Winston, fine. See, I was caring about winning, so I should just stop that because this season really is about Russell Wilson. So why have any backup plan? Hey, listen, if I want to be in a band, it's time to quit the day job and get on the road. Hello, Schenectady.
Okay.
Sink or
It's
swim,
going
baby.
up actually as you continue this. We're just moving up on the number. So your rant is definitely hitting with some people. You mentioned Baker Mayfield though. I didn't even think about Baker because I think he's going to stay with the Rams. But then I also just saw somebody comment, where did it go? Oh, backup QB Hendon Hooker. That name just keeps popping up in people's minds, and lots of people are riding that Hendon Hooker bandwagon. So that one's interesting. But
All right. Well, just real quick on that. I have said repeatedly, I would draft and pick up young quarterbacks 5th round or deeper every single year. Okay? Because seriously, you don't know. And there's nothing wrong with keeping guys on practice squads and developing them in your system so if they get a shot, they understand what's going on. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you can get Hendon Hooker in the 5th round or deeper, and I'm moving past the 4th round too, because there's just too many good players you can pick up in the 4th round. And the Broncos have a ton of really good players they picked up in the 4th round over the years. They got 2 third-round picks and a 4th-round pick, and we'll see what you can get for Courtland Sutton. But if Hendon Hooker is there in the 5th round, Rachel, okay, I'm all for it. And I'm all for anybody. I'm all for the best available quarterback in the 5th round or deeper this year as well, as I will be for a new guy year after year after year. Okay, so that doesn't mean I think Hendon Hooker's going to be the starter. I just think it's good quarterback room maintenance to just always be prepared. And that's how the Niners got Brock Purdy, okay? That wasn't a plan, but it certainly did work out.
That is so lucky. I still can't believe how well that kid is doing in the NFL. And what the heck the 49ers are going to do with Trey Lance, if they're going to keep him or if they're going to roll with Brock. Who knows? That's another question, though, for another day.
Well, they're going to stay with Trey Lance, Rachel, but they're going to keep Purdy as well. That's why it was so brilliant to draft. Oh, yeah, why not? He doesn't cost you anything. It's not really a quarterback controversy. And if you need to move on, you got a guy who's qualified. It's cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with competition, Rachel. What's bad are 50-50 quarterback battles between mediocre second-round draft picks and journeyman Teddy Bridgewater. Hey, I got a name for you. That's the name. You know who I want as the backup?
Teddy B.
Teddy Bridgewater. He's perfect. He's not threatening. He's not the future. He's a great guy, and he worked with Sean Payton. Teddy Bridgewater. That's it. That's my guy.
Call him up.
B. I love Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater was one of the coolest guys to be around. He was a great teammate, a great guy. I'm a fan of Teddy Bridgewater. He would be fantastic back there.
It's interesting. Yeah, let us know again in the comments who you would like to see the backup quarterback. I would love to know, but we will move on to Javonte Williams. Why does problem number one for me, George Payton, go out to the media and say that Javonte Williams will most likely be back by week 1 or should be good to go, when it sounds like Matthew Berry saying he could either, granted, this is all the scenarios that you could possibly see, he could be back for week 1, he could miss a few weeks, or he could miss the entire season because he's actually in a lot more hurt than what they're letting on. Excuse me?
Yeah, that was a mistaken comment. And listen, sometimes you just fluff certain things that you say. I'm not going to castigate negatively George Payton for that. That's all right. It's a bit of a slip of the tongue. Listen, we're hoping that Javonte's back, but we really don't know. And well, you know, he's being hopeful. He's being optimistic. You know, we'll see. Maybe he does come back.
Country's hopes up that your star running back is going to come back, and then all of a sudden, come week 1 of the season, they're like, "Oh, he might not be back till November."
Well, it's preposterous here in March to understand that you'll be okay in September. You just don't know.
So then don't comment on it.
And listen, I was a athletic high school hero, and that's where it more or less ended. But I did tear my ACL and meniscus, my left one, and I thought that would be it about 5 years ago. And old D-Mac, recovered nicely and was able to do all sorts of stuff. So, and look at Jamal Murray. Rachel, look at Jamal Murray right now, how great he is. So my advice for Javonte, and I know every week's the Super Bowl in the NFL, but my big advice for Javonte is if you give it the right time, not only will you be back, but you could be back better than ever. But if you rush back for whatever reason, it could be seriously career-ending debilitation. And so I would just urge Javonte Williams. It'd be awesome if Javonte Williams somehow got Jamal Murray's phone number and chatted him up, okay? And Jamal did do, it was a little frustrating last year, but Jamal really did the right thing. He did, okay? And I'm glad he did what he did. They weren't going to win the championship last year anyway. Just, you go through the whole season, you get to the playoffs, you feel like, let's go. It's so difficult just to give up on the season once you get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But the reality of the situation is Jamal wouldn't have even been close to being ready to play in the playoffs, Rachel. Not even close. He would have looked bad. He would have played poorly, and it would have been a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Jamal did the right thing. Good for Jamal. Good for the Nuggets. They were patient, and look at the year they're now having. So the same with Javonte. Take your time. Take your time, young man, and hopefully you have many years ahead of you.
Which leads us to, if he's not healthy, there's talks that Kareem Hunt could be coming from the Browns to the Broncos. What do you think about Kareem Hunt?
What do you think about Kareem Hunt, Rachel? I'll put that back on you because he comes with some baggage.
He does. That's the first place that my mind goes, is obviously the horrible elevator video. And I think there's a reason he's kind of been around to a few teams, obviously the Chiefs and the Browns, but he's a good player. Like, you got to give him that.
Does that matter to you?
That he's a good player?
No. You know what I'm talking about. Don't be coy. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, but I also believe in forgiving people, and I don't know the backstory of the situation of what's happened since that video. So, if things have been settled, then yes, I totally believe in forgiving people and allowing people to move on with their lives. If it hasn't, then yeah, I would say peace out. But I mean, you see the Deshaun Watson stuff, D-Mac. That stuff is disgusting, and yet people still are just jumping on the bandwagon of Deshaun Watson. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I'm curious to hear from a non-female's perspective.
Well, I'm more interested in a female's perspective, to be honest with you, because we just want to look at football reasons. Sure, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. And they're going to add another running back, Rachel. They are. So in my mind, my opinion is, what are the other choices? Because, listen, I believe in forgiveness too. Everybody makes mistakes, 100%. Okay? But having any types of physical abuse towards a woman it's a rough one to get over, that's for sure. So I guess I would just say, I don't think people shouldn't be forgiven, and I don't think people shouldn't have a right to, move on with their lives. Yeah. I would just say, if everything is equal, what are your other choices? Yeah. And when it comes to Kareem Hunt, I just simply would be like, well, listen, maybe you're right, maybe he's forgiven, all that stuff. But I just go to David Montgomery. I just go to somebody who's probably equally as good, who has experience with our new running backs coach, who basically is, as good, if not better. And that easily breaks the tie for me, because I don't have to be desperate. I never want us to be desperate. I like when the Broncos brought in Pac-Man Jones, it was like one of the most desperate moves you could ever imagine. It's like, what are we, nuts here? And again, I'm all for forgiveness, and people make mistakes, like I said, but I mean, okay, was that the only choice? I mean, is this it? And if it's not the only choice, and there is somebody who is as good, if not a better option, then I would just simply go in that direction. Not to say the other person shouldn't be able to go on with the rest of their life. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, if it comes between a couple of guys, I guess I would factor in the past a little bit, and I wouldn't want to have to deal with that or explain it.
And this is going to set me off on a bit of a rant, but I see this comment that said Hunt was around 20 years old when that happened. Everyone ask yourself, what bad things did you do in your early 20s? That's inexcusable no matter what. I don't care if you're 16 years old. I don't care if you're 40 years old. It's inexcusable. You don't do it. I can tell you the bad stuff that I did when I was 20 years old, and it does not even include anything related to that. So it's not an excuse if you're 20 years old. I'm sorry. We're going to end that rant there before I get even more pissed off. You have something you'd like to say?
No.
Before I'm like, cut.
No, you're well said, and you're more than right to have the last word on that.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the Avs injury report real quick. This isn't good news. We're still hearing that Gabe Landeskog's going to be out for a few weeks. Eric Johnson's going to be out for a few weeks. Francouz is still slow moving. They were hoping to already have him back, and Manson has no timetable for return. D-Mac, we kind of get our hopes up that, things are starting to look good, and now we're still hearing out for weeks. It's not making me feel better.
Rachel, we got I mean, Jared Bednar was doing his radio show on Altitude this morning, and he destroyed his team again. So
Yeah.
he ripped them after the Kraken game. He killed them on the radio this morning. They're skating right now. They're having their morning skate right now. So we'll see how he's feeling about things.
Yeah.
It's not great. And fortunately, their strength of schedule is not tough. Like they've got a bunch of cupcakes theoretically coming up. So this has been a seesaw season. A team that won 6 games in a row and was on fire. A team that got 11 out of 12 points on back-to-back games. 3 sets of back-to-back games. They got 11 out of 12 points. In the last 3 games, they've given up 7 goals on back-to-back games, which they hadn't done since 1990 when they were the Nordiques. And they showed no life, none whatsoever against the Kraken. And when I talked to Alexander Georgiev after the game against Seattle, he was visibly frustrated. If you saw my little interview with him, it's like he's a little beside himself. Like, I don't know. What am I supposed to do here? And I really can't blame him. And you're playing backup goalies with pads that have the worst fashion sense since me. And it's like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
So you've got a very important 3-game stretch. Started Sunday, which was terrible. And here we go tonight, where you gotta get it together here. They're in the exact opposite position of the Nuggets. The Nuggets have 3 relatively easy games coming up, and then they go on a 5-game East Coast road trip. Well, they'll probably be lucky to win 1 out of those 5 games. They're all against tough opponents, and it's the right time to just recover and not kill yourself. You don't need to do it. The Avalanche are desperate, Rachel. They got to get a point every game they play, or they're going to be in big trouble. Not only just making the playoffs, but seeding themselves. So you don't get any easy breaks if you're the Avalanche. Nowhere near the same situation as the Nuggets.
Okay. My concern level is back, but I'm trying to stay positive.
Rightfully so. You should be concerned.
And Jared Bednar, I trust, though, okay? I actually like that he's being very upfront and vocal about how he's feeling.
Okay. Back-to-back days, he's being upfront and vocal. He's not mixing. Things are not confused right now. No. It is clear he is ticked off. And he's ticked off at some of the better guys, too.
I like it. Call them out. They got to be the leaders. You got to be there. But they do play tonight. The Sharks are coming into town. The over and under is 6.5 goals. Are you taking the over or the under, D-Mac?
It shapes up like a 5-2 sort of win for the Avalanche. Like, boy, Bednar has challenged his team. The Sharks stink. 5-2, 6-1. You better hope it's something like that. I don't think I'll take the under. I'll take the under. I think they're missing something right now. I'm not saying they're going to lose, but I could see tonight being like 3-1, 4-1 maybe.
Game.
Yeah, 4-, something like that. I see them winning, but it's so hard to predict after the past 3 games that they're all of a sudden going to just dominate like that. Yeah. I'll go with the win, but I'll go with the under on goals. I'll say they win the game like 4-2, which puts them right on the number. Something like that.
No, that's what I was going to say. I think it's going to be a sloppy win. And to be honest, if it wasn't at home, I don't know if they would get the win. That's how shaky I think things are, like you mentioned. So I'm at a concern level of like a 2, but I'm hopeful. And I'm going to ride that for right now. Last night's Nuggets game, though. Holy smokes. Talk about anxiety for myself. Great job by the Nuggets to be able to get the win. Obviously, big fourth quarter comeback essentially. But tell me about Ball Arena, because it's a Monday night. You know, they really should have just dominated the Raptors. Pascal Siakam just said, no, I'm going to make every single shot tonight. So tell me, I want to know, what was the energy like at Ball Arena?
Well, it's ridiculous, Rachel. It's another 19,250 people on a freaking Monday night against Toronto. I mean, are you kidding me? So, yeah, things are catching on fire with the Nuggets. People are understanding it. I saw, I forget her name, but she said she was watching the Nuggets because of coffee break on Twitter. What's that?
Taylor.
Yep,
she comments in her thing. Her name is actually Elizabeth, but she has her YouTube name is Taylor, so we love her.
Okay. Well, right on. And I saw the back and forth with you and her, and she's like, never really watched the Nuggets until she hears us hyping it up. And so I can see where that was high anxiety. It was exciting. It was not a great game from the Nuggets, okay? The game had all sorts of weird twists and turns. Jamal Murray needed 7 3-pointers to break Will Barton's all-time 3-point make record with the Nuggets. He's only 26, so it's not like this is the most amazing record of all time. But when Will Barton broke the record, beating J.R. Smith last year, almost a year to the date, March 4th last year, is when Will Barton broke that record. Barton was like emotional. Barton was all like torn up and like he was really struggling leading up to breaking the record. And he broke the record. It was like, oh my God, I broke the record. And then later in the game, like family members of Will Barton like got in fights with like other fans because Will Barton gets booed. Oh yeah, Will Barton broke the record, but Will Barton was getting booed by the home crowd. A huge love-hate relationship with Will Barton and the fans. So the fact that Jamal Murray was playing against Will Barton, who was on Toronto, and you thought, well, the Nuggets are going to win relatively easily, set the record, that'll be the story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jamal came out gunning. He hit his first 2 threes, but the Nuggets just didn't play great. They really didn't, and we give props to Toronto for playing well. It goes down to the last minute. The Nuggets led like one time briefly in the third quarter, but that was it.
Yeah.
And unbelievably, so the Jamal hit 5. He didn't hit 7, but he hit 5. But that became a background story to just winning the game. They should never have won that game. They would never have won that game last year or in years past. That is just a loss. The fact that they can figure it out, and statistically and analytically, the Nuggets, Rachel, are the most clutch team in the NBA. And I won't nerd out with why with all the numbers. Just take my word on this one. But not only are they the most clutch team defensively, they're more than double the second most clutch team, which is Milwaukee, okay? Yeah. So if you want a reason to believe in the Nuggets, not only do they win, but they win defensively in the clutch when it matters most. And they got huge help last night because Scott Foster, now you got to follow me on this, Scott Foster was one of the referees tied into the Tim Donaghy point shaving scheme. So Donaghy is a corrupt official that was getting paid off by the mob to control NBA games. Well, Scott Foster, in a period of time, about 6 months, got 134 calls from Donaghy. So here's why this matters. Scotty Barnes, a bright young player for Toronto, in 3 straight plays, okay, he fouls Jokic, and they overturn the call. It's not a foul on Jokic. He goes down and gets fouled by Jokic. They look at it, not a foul. So that's 2 in a row against Barnes. They take the ball. The Nuggets take the ball back down. They call a foul on Barnes, on Aaron Gordon on the baseline. And he goes, y'all are cheating. And Scott Foster, who may have been cheating, tosses out one of the best players of the Raptors. And not only did they lose one of their better players, but it gave them a technical free throw. And then Murray hit it, and then Aaron Gordon hit it. And that was it. The Nuggets had a 4-point lead, and it was the end of the game. So, Rachel, when was the last time your team that you rooted for was helped by the officiating, not hurt by the officiating?
Okay, so that's my question. Do you really believe? I mean, you technically just said it. You said who may have been cheating. Do you really believe that? Or do you think that I don't know. I
think Scott Foster and Tim Donaghy were up to all sorts of foolishness back in the day. I don't know what's happening now, but that's why Scotty Foster threw out Scotty Barnes. You should have seen the other referees' faces when he threw them out.
I know, so that's what I'm like.
And Rachel, I didn't even know. I thought, see, I'm still learning about things. I thought you had to have 2 technicals to get thrown out of the game. He just gave him 1 T and tossed him like a baseball umpire. I didn't even know you could do that in the NBA. But obviously you can.
Oh, Jake's coming up.
You got to take mute
off. Just going to clean up some stuff real quick. 1, he did get 2 technicals on the spot. He got 2 technicals at the same time. 2, Scott Foster is the godfather for Tim Donaghy's son. So
hey, one second, though. If he got 2 technicals, why was there only 1 technical free throw?
That we don't know, but on the official box score, he got 2 technicals.
Oh, but then
So
why not 2? Why?
There were so
that
many questions. Everybody, even on the broadcast, I know you guys were there and everyone was like, what's going on? Even on the broadcast, we were all like, what's happening right now?
Well, because he didn't get 2 technical free throws. That's
Yeah.
why. I mean, if he got 2, I would get it.
So yeah, the Tim Donaghy stuff is interesting. Do not, under any circumstances, watch the thing on Netflix. It's completely terrible. It is from Donaghy's perspective, and everything that you can read from Tim Donaghy from FBI dissertations is proven wrong. The document it proves wrong what is said in the documentary by Netflix. So you can find better information on the Donaghy scandal elsewhere. And it's fascinating. It really is. But I wanted to end the show. I know we're coming to the end of the show, Rachel, and I wanted to end it this way on a fun note. I gave this trivia to DMAC yesterday.
Okay.
Ball Arena. What is the capacity of Ball Arena, Rachel?
18,003.
Okay. It's 18,007.
Dang.
Wow, close.
Okay.
That's awesome, actually. Go ahead.
The Colorado Avalanche and Denver Nuggets this season combined have had crowds less than 18,007 how many times?
6.
It's 2.
Wow.
Both were Nuggets games in November against the Rockets. And 18,000 would be the 15th, I think, best attendance or something like that in the NBA. Like 6, it's in the middle. So the Denver Nuggets' worst attendance nights would still rank in the middle of attendance in the NBA. And obviously the Avs are towards the top. So Ball Arena, to your point where you got started, has been absolutely on fire all winter, and it's been awesome.
So how were there 19,250 people in attendance last night, Jake?
Standing room only.
Oh, that's right. You can buy standing room only.
Yeah.
You can buy standing room only. So anything over 18,007 is technically a sellout.
Yeah, and I think it's technically a little bit more for the Nuggets because they can sneak some seats onto the floor. But the official capacity listed by Ball Arena is 1807. And that's not to say that there aren't also other seats in some sneaky locations. There's all sorts of math that goes on with this, but you can only lie so much, right?
Yeah, Jake's right. Basically midway through the second quarter, you just look around and you can tell. And it has been sellout after sellout for both teams. And you know what? The team that really had to catch up on that was the Nuggets. That was not the case last year. The Avs were selling out, but not the Nuggets. I couldn't believe last night was sold out. I thought for sure there'd be at least 3,000 or 4,000 empty seats. It's a Monday night against the Raptors, you know? And the fact that Scott Foster, the referee, there's something with that dude. I mean, it worked out. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that was all right. But he had such a quick trigger on the fact that Barnes said, y'all cheating. And we know what that means.
Okay, so one word answer. Did the Nuggets get away with one? And do you think they would have won if that wouldn't have happened? Jake?
Yes.
Oh, that's 2 questions.
Wait. Yes, they got away with one.
Yep.
And I do not think they would have won had the officiating not gotten a little wonky there at the end.
Okay.
I will say yes and yes. Even when they got those 3 free throws, they would have had one anyways. 2 plays were actually reviewed that get looked at by the league office. It's not just the referees in attendance.
No. So the way the NBA process works, DMAC, is it's actually the referee on the spot who makes the call. There's not a command.
Wait, hold on. On the TV broadcast, they said it was being reviewed in New Jersey or something at the league office.
That process changes throughout the season, but the coaches' challenges themselves is reviewed by the actual officials on the court. The non-challenged reviewed calls are reviewed by the league office.
Okay, so they were slightly wrong on the broadcast to say they're getting help from East Brunswick or whatever.
Yeah.
It's because the process is stupid.
Okay, all right. Yes. I will say yes and yes because of the numbers I brought up. Advanced analytics tell you the Nuggets had the most clutch defense in the NBA, and it's not even close. I think they were up by 1 anyway. I think they would have figured out a way to win it, period. But it helped. It ended the game. I'm telling you that. It ended the game right then and there because it gave them a 4-point lead. And then very, very smartly, they fouled Jakob Poeltl. And that was super smart because, Jake, what's his career free throw shooting percentage?
He's a career 54% free throw shooter, former Utah Ute. Shout out Jakob Pertl. But yeah, it was a really smart play, and it was something Nikola Jokic actually thought of during their playoff series with Golden State last year when Kevon Looney was in the pick and roll, and Michael Malone said, "Remember Kevon Looney?" And Jokic said, "I got you." And it goes to show you the communication between a very good coach and a great player, and the relationship that this team has built over years.
I'm sure there's a reason James Marilat hated it, but that is chemistry, coaching, and an MV3 all together. That's experience and great coaching. Not good coaching, great coaching. And that's a conversation they can have like that. Like there's nothing to think about there. And that, and he missed both of them. He missed both of them. And it was Michael Porter Jr. that got the rebound. And Michael Porter Jr. was insane last night when he was having a quarter, and they needed him. I mean, this team is clicking. So that's why I say yes and yes. I know why you say yes and no, but I say yes and yes because they just figure out ways to win. And it's at home, you can't stop them. They're 30-4.
T-Mac, it's one thing to figure out a way to win. It's another to end the game on a 13-2 run.
It's all good.
Yeah.
The Nuggets, they're still in the Avs motto. Find a way because they were able to do it. This team is so much fun to watch. I hope you guys can all start to see some games, if not already. And if you can't, go to a sports bar and watch them because honestly, it's just so much fun. Plus, buy tickets. Go out to the games, actually. It's a ton of fun. Jake, thank you for the information. And to everybody else in the comments, we appreciate you hanging out with us tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. for another episode of Coffee Week. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.